welcome to the Happy Hour Jamie Ivey podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm so glad that you're here with us this week. Every week, I invite a girlfriend to join me on the show, and we chat about the big things in life, the little things in life, and everything in between. I want to thank our sponsor, Jelly Telly. Jelly Telly is the only streaming video app that is designed specifically for kids, where God is real and His Word is true. This is co-developed with VeggieTales creator Phil Vischer, which my kids grew up on VeggieTales. This is so amazing for me. With Jelly Telly, the shows and movies your kids watch over and over again reflect what you believe about God and help you lead your kids into a life of faith where they walk with God every day. For all of us parents, there are tons of resources over at Jelly Telly Parents, from blogs to research to printable activities. Your kids are going to love having their very own video app, and you will love the peace of mind that comes from knowing that they can access quality Christian content. Visit jellytelly.com today and use the special code HAPPYHOUR, which is just for you listeners, to get $5 off for a year subscription or get your first month of Jelly Telly free. Go to jellytelly.com. My guest for today is Ashley Noelle. Ashley and her husband live in Colorado with their 3 girls, and they both work for an organization called Save the Storks. Ashley is passionate about loving women right where they are, no matter what they've been through or no matter what decisions they've made. Her and I had a great conversation today, encouraging women to live authentic lives. I want to give you a quick disclosure that we talk about abortion in this episode. So if you have little ears, be prepared to answer some questions. Guys, if you're loving the happy hour, would you take a few minutes to head over to iTunes and leave a rating or review? It's super easy. It takes you about 2 minutes, and it helps more people find the happy hour. I've made it super easy for you. So go to jamieivey.com/iTunes, and it's right there for you to leave a review. Here's a great review that we got. They called the review Food for the Soul from a Pumpkin Girl RN. She says this: I'm beyond happy that I stumbled upon this podcast a few months ago. Being a full-time working mama, I have limited opportunities to feed my soul. Jamie and her guests provide the nutrition that sustains my soul. Thank you for being vulnerable and honest with so many listeners. You make my mundane commute to work enjoyable and therapeutic. That is the goal, and so I'm glad that it's doing that for you guys. Okay, guys, here is my conversation with Ashley.
They're pretty wonderful, though, so I'm really thankful.
That's so awesome. And you have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old.
Yeah, I think she's 10 months old now.
10 months old. Okay.
And
none of them, your 5-year-old's not in school yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. Are y'all going to do public school, private, homeschool?
Well, we did a homeschool program with her last year called Classical Conversations. Kind of for like this, it was a preschool, but it was not preschool. It was very highbrow. She learned like the history of the world, the scientific method. It was really,
that's
really
crazy.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's all songs. So she just learned the songs. She doesn't necessarily know what it means.
But
now,
it'll come back, right? Yes.
Totally.
Yep.
And she'll be able to do it later. So I think we might continue to do that. It feels a little crazy with the extra kids and the baby. You know, we had a baby last year. We moved. We switched careers. We moved out of state. So it was like a little bit of a rough.
You had all of the top stressors in people's lives. You had them in 1 year.
We didn't buy a house yet. So
okay.
We had some
holding out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. A lot happened in a year for y'all.
So much. So good though.
Baby, moved states, changed careers.
Yes.
Did I miss anything, or those are 3 major things?
Those are 3 major things. Those feel major enough. So
one of those on them alone is major. So good for you guys.
Yeah, the Lord has really just been super faithful to provide for us, like emotionally, spiritually, financially in this. So we're just it's one of those things where Jesus calls you off the boat and you just kind of have to jump off and just swim to him and go, you know, you don't really get to just say like, oh, I have to bury my dad first. Or
yeah.
Doesn't
it seem crazy? I like that you said that. I was just thinking about that the other day because someone was talking about that story in the Bible of Jesus calling him to walk on the water. And I was thinking about that, and I started to think to myself, man, if I saw Jesus in the flesh and he asked me to do something, I'd be like, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
And it's still so hard.
It's so scary, especially when you have, my husband and I are very like planner people. We plan things way out in advance. We had a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. And he actually got a promotion at work the same week that this opportunity came up. And we had to turn down the promotion at work, and he had a job offer at a different place in the same field of work. So we really had to just follow.
Yeah, that's when you know, and you know what, when you feel the peace and the calm about that is when you really also know, like, okay, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing because This actually looks on paper better.
Yes, absolutely. Everything did look better. I mean, who leaves a career where literally he had not tenure, but he had a pension. He was 10 years in almost. He was a detective. Like, he was solid. They would not get rid of him for anything. They were giving him a training position. And we're like, no, we're going to leave and go work for a nonprofit and make way less money and move states and leave our community at church. And, but it felt good. And, we were talking to our pastor's wife when we were kind of deciding what we should do. And she said, it would just kind of be weird if you didn't. Like, everything's just opening up, and it would just be weird if you just said, oh no, God, we're just going to stop here. Yeah. And that's really how it felt. God just aligned things in such a way and opened every door for us to come work at Save the Storks that it would have been weird if we didn't.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit because I want to hear about this transition. And I also think that, like, although people may not be transitioning from the workforce to a nonprofit working, I think a lot of us are listening and we're like, there are times in our life when things just seem like we feel as though this is what we're supposed to do, but the other option looks better to the world. And just how do you know, and all those kind of things. So I want to talk about, your husband was a detective, a police officer.
Undercover narcotics.
First of all, give me just a snapshot of what that was like to be married to a police officer.
Well, I mean, honestly, was all I knew. We have been married for 9 years now in July, and he got this job basically right out of college. So our whole marriage has been him as a police officer.
So you were dating a police officer? You got married to a police officer?
Well, when we were dating, we were in college. So, But he was doing an internship at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So it was kind of, it was similar, and he was in criminology. We always knew he was going to be James Bond, and then like, it was the same thing. God just opened doors, and it would have been weird if we hadn't followed through. And then we had a 5-year plan. Maybe he'd be a detective. Maybe at 5 years he'd be able to be a detective. And he got the detective gig in 3 years, which is like unheard of.
Wow.
He'll be embarrassed that I'm bragging on him, but it was just so awesome. And so, I mean, I know it seems weird from the outside, but it was kind of normal for us. It's just what our kids knew. I mean, you were married to a pastor. He probably travels a lot and does different things. Yep. It's kind of just normal.
Yep. People ask me all the time, how did you do that? Because when Aaron and I were first married, he traveled all the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's just it's all I knew. It's what we did. Yeah. I guess it's the same answer when I asked him, what's it like for your husband to be serving overseas in the military? Mm-hmm. It's hard, but it's what we do. It's our life.
Totally. Yeah. You just kind of have to, I mean, I don't know, if God calls you to it, then I think he gives you the tools, which is obviously him, to get through it. And that's just kind of what we did.
Did you ever struggle with worry with your husband out?
Oh, no. I was totally fine with him standing in front of guns and buying drugs. No, of course.
Okay, so he was an undercover
narcotics
so he
detective.
Is out. Okay, now I need you to explain a little bit more, because it just clicked in my head. He is out pretending. Hello, that's what undercover means. Yes. Pretending to buy and sell drugs.
He was actually buying drugs.
My word.
People didn't know that he was pretending. And people at our church who didn't know us, when we switched to this really incredible church. And for a long time, people thought like I was legitimately married to a homeless man. I was like, no, he's a detective. Because we don't tell people, oh, he's an undercover detective, right? As soon as
but when you say they thought that, is because the way
he looked like it.
Okay.
He looked like it. He dressed like it. I mean, he had to. Right?
So let me just say this too. Like, was there ever a time when your husband was concerned that like his gig might be up, like his little undercover thing was blown?
No, there has been times that we've seen, bad guys out in public.
Okay, that's what I meant.
A code word. Yeah, we had a code word, and me and the girls would kind of dip out, and he would.
Oh my gosh.
I know it seems weird when you talk about it, but it was really normal.
No, it seems totally weird. That does not seem normal, Ashley, at all.
Well,
because then he would have to he couldn't be hanging out with a family. Like, he'd have to be.
We would have to go to the car and then drive it to a different place, and he would meet us there just in case. I mean, I don't think it was. I think some of it, and I think any police officer or even military people have this kind of thing. Like, he's just always aware of what's happening, and they might not even see him. Mm-hmm. But just in case, we have 3 little girls, it's not worth it for him to see us. So
was he the kind of officer, would he bring those emotions and feelings home, or did he kind of leave it at the door?
I don't know. Me and him have a really great communication, structure in our marriage. We always have, where we maybe too much. Maybe we talk about things too much. And so it was always good. Like, he always told me everything that happened at work. I know a lot of police wives don't want to hear it, but I was kind of fascinated. And I just, also it keeps him accountable to our family. Like, that's a job. Like, even though it's cool and it's undercover and you're buying heroin or whatever, like, that's an actual job. And our family life is first, and our relationship with the Lord is first. And so we had to kind of talk about it enough to make it just a job.
Yeah. I would see how it would kind of be a good thing to kind of compartmentalize that.
Yes. And he's great at compartmentalizing, but I don't let up. So
Yeah. So you mentioned to me that you became a believer in college.
yes.
Was your husband, was he already a Christian, or how did that kind of work?
Yes, he was a believer, but I think he would say he was working on his testimony at that time. He wasn't really walking with the Lord. We started dating, and we went home for Easter to his house. He came and introduced me to his family, and they were all really strong believers, praying together, worshiping together, really just doing life as Christians. And I'd never been exposed to something like that. I was raised kind of culturally Catholic.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And so when we left for Easter, we were talking about his family, and I was telling him, they're really great, they're wonderful, but you don't believe in any of that, do you? And he was like, no, I actually do. And I was like, whoa.
Oh, wait.
Then why are we doing this?
Yeah.
How is this okay? Like all these things, And so we really started to talk to me about Jesus, tell me about what he believed, really started making changes in his own life. And then I embarrassingly came to Christ to a Nick Lachey song on the side of the...
I need to hear this.
So this is so silly, but when Nick Lachey broke up with Jessica Simpson and he started dating Vanessa Milano,
yes,
he wrote this song about how like Vanessa Milano could have what's left of him. And it was the first day that it had ever come out on the radio. I was driving to see my husband actually and his family. Well, he was my boyfriend at the time. And I was on the side of the road. The song came out. They weren't like, this is the new Nick Lachey song or anything. The song just started playing. And it's basically about being broken and being half of what they thought they would be. But, she could have what was left of him. And to me, it was just like God. I was like, I don't know why you would want me. I've done so many things. 21 is kind of old to become a Christian life-wise. Like I'd done a lot of things that were very worldly and which wouldn't be not normal, not terrible, but like, I lived in the world. So I was doing those things and I just didn't understand why God would want me, but I just felt it so strong in my heart. And I literally had to pull my car over to the side of the road and I was like sobbing and I, asked Jesus into my heart. And then like right after it was like, and that was the new Nick Lachey song. I'm like, no, forever my testimony is Nick Lachey.
And God can totally use it.
Totally. But I guess that fits my personality to have something ridiculous like that be my testimony.
That is the best. And so I always am super, super, super like intrigued. I don't know if that's the right word, but I grew up in church. And so although I didn't start following Jesus until I was in my early 20s, I grew up knowing all the Christianese stuff, all the talk, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm always super, super excited to chat with people who didn't, It's like my friend Noelle. She like, doesn't know. Like, I remember we were talking one time about like Beth Moore and she's like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, how do you not know who Beth Moore, like who, if you're a Christian, it's like, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, Beth Moore, right?
So when we moved to Colorado Springs, the Focus on the Family like hub is here. And everyone was like, oh, Focus on the Family's there. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, I haven't heard.
So you didn't know who James Dobson was?
No. And my husband like grew up listening to Dr. Dobson and he met his son and he was so excited that he met Dr. Dobson's son. And I like, oh, cool. I don't know. I had to, like, Google
I love
him.
it. I literally love it when people tell me things like that because it is just this like, it's the best. It really is because they don't have all these preconceived notions. They haven't been either jaded or they also don't like think of these people as, anything special, like Beth was like, her Bible studies have been tremendous in my life,
Right.
But I also know she's just a person just like me,
Right. Yes. It is interesting.
I love it. It is interesting. It really is this little culture thing that we have, this Christian culture thing, it really is.
And now working for a nonprofit who, pretty much everyone Jesse works with was raised in the church. I mean, some of them weren't, but mostly they're like in the Christian culture for so long. I don't know what they're talking about most of the time. I'm just kind of like a fresh perspective of.
But you know what? It's so good because I like that because when we're trying to like tell people about Jesus, who we're talking to people? We're talking to people who don't know church things.
Exactly. Yes.
And so I think it's a really good thing for us to sit down and be like, hey, what do we say and what do we talk about that does not make sense to the world?
Yes, absolutely.
And there's a thin line of, like God revealing himself to people and making things make sense. And then actually like not talking weirdly where people can't understand what we're saying.
Totally.
So I'm sure you bring a great perspective to that.
I mean, I don't know any of the Christianese, so I just
See, it's good.
say what I know.
They need to call you in for consulting. Like, listen, when we say this, what do you think? And then you can tell them, this doesn't make sense.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh, I love it so much. Okay, so you guys, your husband worked in law enforcement. All of a sudden, you guys packed up and moved to Colorado, which, beautiful. Where'd you live in California?
We lived in Sonoma County, so wine country.
Which, beautiful as well.
I know. We moved from Florida, from the beach, to wine country, and now to Colorado Springs.
Y'all are like, let's live in the top 5 places in America. Where can we pick?
God, it's so easy.
Yes.
No.
Oh my gosh. I went to Colorado. I've grown up going snow skiing, so I've been in the winter, but I went in the summer. I've said this 1,000 times on here, but I went in the summer, 3 years ago. Our supper club did a vacation up there, and it was my first time to ever be in Colorado in the summer. Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
It's so pretty.
It was a new kind of love for the place, you know?
Yeah, it's just now spring here this weekend. It was snowing, I feel like, a weekend ago or two. So it's beautiful. It is really beautiful.
Okay, it's that cold. I'm heading there in June, the first week. I'm gonna need a jacket.
Oh. I mean, I think it might be cold at night. I don't really know.
You're new.
I'm so new. But I think it might be. Are you coming to Colorado Springs?
Breckenridge.
Oh, Breckenridge. I think you probably need a jacket at night because I think that's higher elevation than where we
did that last time we were there. We needed like jackets at night, which I think is just the best.
Yes, it's so nice.
That's kind of my favorite kind of weather is like the weather where you always need to have like a light jacket with you.
Yes, April 25th, where it's not too cold. All you need is a light jacket.
I love it. It's the best.
So good.
Okay, so y'all moved to Colorado. So tell me, you've mentioned it a few times already, but tell me what brought you guys to Colorado Springs.
So actually the day after Influence Conference, where you were
yes.
there, I saw each other there.
Love the Influence people. So
they're wonderful.
Yes,
obviously.
y'all are, yes.
And so the next day, at the conference, they were talking about the Great Commissioning, how we've already been commissioned by Jesus to do things. And I'd kind of taken a step back with the baby and everything and kind of was trying to decide, where is God wanting to use me? And my husband and I were both, where is God calling us right now in this season of our life? And we foolishly prayed, we'll do anything. I was reading Jenny Allen's book. And so I was like, anything, Lord, like whatever you would have us do, wherever you call us, as long as it's in our very specific plans we have for our career, right. But wherever you'd call us. And the day I got home from Influence, we went to like this casual worship night at our church, and Jeff Gilbert, who used to be the drummer for Cutlass, was speaking. He grew up with our pastor, and he was talking about this organization, Save the Storks. And I was just sitting in the back, just so moved. I was like crying, and I turned to look at my husband and be like, I think I'm supposed to, do this. And he was crying also. And so I was like, oh, I love, because I think I've heard you say before, God doesn't call just one of you.
Yeah.
God calls your family. Mm-hmm. So it was clear that he was like calling both of us to be involved. And I thought, I'm a social media person, online blogging, that kind of thing. That's where he'll use me. And so we went up and oddly enough, the guy, when we said we wanted to be involved, he said, yeah, you can donate. And we were like, yes, absolutely. We're going to partner. But what else can we do? And he said, I've really been trying to do like a blog campaign. You don't happen to know any.
And you're like, hey.
I literally know all of them. No.
Yes.
So, we started talking with him, and that was the direction we thought we were going. And we came out to Colorado Springs. They flew us out here to interview, and they flew me and Jesse both, and we brought Stella, our baby. And and
they were just interviewing you to do social media stuff?
We didn't really know what they were doing. It was the way they run it is that they find people who are invested and people who really care about the movement, and they try to find a place for them, instead of hiring for a specific role. Yeah. Which is really wise because their office is so dynamic and so innovative because they got good people and didn't just get people to fill a role.
Got it.
So I guess Jesse just kind of blew them away, as he does. And so they have me doing kind of things online. I write for their blog a little bit and speak for them. And then he works full-time for them as the director of affiliate development. And it was like, I think we came December 9th. And we accepted the job, I think, 2 weeks later and moved here in January.
Jeez.
It was so fast. But it was just what the Lord was calling us to. So
Okay, tell me about Save the Storks.
So Save the Storks is an apolitical, like non-involved in politics, nonprofit who basically takes a woman at the well approach to the abortion minded woman.
Okay.
So many of our generation, like, I don't know if this is true for you, but I'll speak for myself. I always cared about life. Like, obviously I know what God thinks about it. But there's no way for me to get involved. I don't really believe in picketing. I don't really want to be protesting. I don't need to be doing the defunding. And Save the Storks doesn't either. They want to change the conversation that no matter what the law is, that women will have actual choices. And like Jesus did with the woman at the well, they would go out of their way to come to the women where they are and meet them right where they are, to help them, and to love them and to show them Christ's love. And so they do this with what they call stork buses, which are these Mercedes Sprinter vans.
Okay.
And they haul them out. They make them super gorgeous inside, leather interior, and kind of make it a mobile medical unit for pregnancy resource centers. And so the resource centers can come and offer free sonograms, free ultrasounds, free pregnancy tests, free STD tests right in the van. And since it's just a van, you can park it anywhere there's legal parking, which means near abortion clinics, outside of college campuses, at fairs, things like that. And it's been incredible. 4 out of 5 women who step on the Storks bus choose life, which is like unbelievable. There's basically around 360 women on average per year per bus that choose life. And these women are literally walking to abortion clinic like they have scheduled abortions and they are choosing life instead. And when they choose life, I know people always worry like, okay, well, the pro-life movement, they choose life and then we leave the women. But no, like it's about the women in general. Hello, save the stork. The stork is the woman carrying the baby. And so when she chooses life, they offer free healthcare, free diapers for first year, free clothing till 2T, free parenting classes.
Who offers this? You guys?
The pregnancy resource centers that partner with us through our program. Yeah, pretty much any resource they need. And then if they don't choose life, if they choose to have an abortion, we offer free post-abortion counseling. Because you don't just have a woman and tell them that you love them. We start with love and we end with love. So whatever choice she makes in the middle, obviously we hope she chooses life. But if she doesn't, God still loves her and we still love her.
Yeah.
And we show Christ's love to her. And I think that's really the difference in this movement.
So this sounds great, and I think that a lot of us would be like, yeah, we are for life and we're with this, but it seems a little bit more personal than to you.
Yes, it is.
Why?
Well, so when I was in college, I drove a friend to an abortion. We were, like I said before, living really worldly, and of course, it was like the thing that we were going to do. There wasn't even a question. I drove her. It was fine. We never talked about it ever again after that. And, she kind of just lived with that. And later when I became a Christian and then when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I saw we had a 10-week ultrasound. And so we had the 8-week, which is just like the little heartbeat, oh, your baby. And then when we had the 10-week, she had a head and arms and legs and she was moving them. And it was insane. Like an educated woman who grew up with a nurse as a mother, really truly thought it was a clump of cells. Like I did believe that lie and it wasn't. And I just thought, back to my friend who she was showing. And so I just imagined
how far along was she?
I honestly don't remember, but
she was
far along enough to be showing.
Yeah.
And so that, it always stuck with me. And I think that's the thing too. Like, I think it says something that we did this, we shared this intimate experience, and then we never spoke about it again. And I think a lot of women are left after their abortions, just kind of left out to dry by themselves. By themselves. And I was actually, I was talking to my mom about this. A friend of mine has told about her abortion story. She made a video for Save the Storks. I actually know her through influence. And so she has been really bold about it. So I was telling my mom, once we moved to Colorado, I was explaining this to her. My mom got really quiet. My mom is, in her 60s. And she told me that when she was 19, she had one marriage before my dad. And she got pregnant and he did not want a baby. It was like 3 months after Roe versus Wade was legalized. And he basically forced her into an abortion. And it was terrible, like so awful. She said she remembers the nurses, were mean to her because it was like very newly legal, like within months. And she didn't want it. She had no other option. She had nobody to speak for her. And she held that for 43 years.
That was the first time your mom ever told you that?
That was the first time she ever told anyone.
Oh my gosh.
Husband knew, and then they divorced, and nobody else ever knew.
Your dad did not know?
No, nobody else ever knew. And it's just one of those things where like, man, she's been living with this shame and this bondage for 43 years, and Jesus died on the cross for that. When he thought of her, he died for that specific sin. And she was able to forgive herself for everything else, but held on to that as if that sin was too, great, as if sins can be weighed.
Right.
Know? And just to see her walk in that freedom, it's just been so incredible. And seeing many women walk in that freedom after, because, 1 in 4 Christian women who attend church weekly, so they're like actual, they're not just in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in. Have had an abortion. They're post-abortive. And nobody's talking to them. Not the church, not us. And they're living in this secret shame and guilt that they don't need to own, And I just think, ugh.
Oh, I know. I get this. I remember a couple of years ago, I had a little online, I was writing a little series on my blog. That's what I'm trying to say. I had a series on my blog about letters to myself. And it was one of the first times that I had written about parts of my story. And I have spoken about them to ladies groups, all kinds of stuff. But it was the first time I put it out on the internet. And I remember I spoke about it, and I actually was pregnant in college and had a miscarriage. So I never had to make this choice. But I remember I wrote about it, and a woman contacted me who goes to my church. And she was like, I think it was the first time I thought that if Jamie can say this out loud, and her husband's a pastor, I've never told my husband that I had an abortion.
Yes. See, that's the thing. I think so many women are living in this fear. And I think if women would just tell, like not in a filtered way, but just tell their experience, I think that would change everything. I think that would change everything.
Yeah, because I truly believe that, like, when I talk about struggles that I've had 20 years ago, and when I talk about struggles that I have today, like things that like might be embarrassing, but I talk about and I confess those to my friends and we walk through it together, that actually I'm letting God work in my life in a way that's better and different and gives him glory than if I try to just present myself as this person who doesn't struggle, who doesn't ever have anything in her past. What that does is that presents a lot of Jamie glory.
Absolutely. And that's not the truth. Like,
it's not the truth. You're right.
It kind of makes you, I mean, I know that I'm not saying this about you, but it makes us feel like, because I do the same thing, like we almost hold this thing above God. And if anyone knew us, if anyone really knew, how would they feel about us? They wouldn't let me be a detective wife. They wouldn't let me be in ministry if they knew me. But the thing is God does know. He already knows, and he loves you anyway.
Yeah.
He loves you even though. And I just like, if any woman is listening to this and like has experienced that, I just want her to like walk in the freedom of grace that like God already loves you. God died for you for that. And you don't have to carry that anymore.
And since when do we believe the lie that God doesn't use messed up people? Every single person that he called in the Bible and the scriptures that we have written down, they are messed up, jacked up people.
Such a mess. I can't even think of anyone who was normal.
Me neither, besides Jesus himself, you know?
Exactly. And that's the thing, like none of us are Jesus. I can't expect anyone to be a perfect person because they're not. And I think that, and like you said, when people tell their stories and are authentic about who they are and what God has done in their life, that's when other people can walk in that freedom and that too. Like I wouldn't be able to do the things that I can do if I haven't had women go before me and say, this is okay. This is what we do. This is the real thing. I mean, Jess Connolly, who I love her. She's a good friend of mine.
We love her on the happy hour. Yes.
Yes. She, I like relate to her so much because we both kind of had a jacked up life in the beginning. We're very worldly. And then she is like, man, out there for Jesus all the time. And it's so cool to see and know her personally and know that that's authentic and see that like, man, if he can use her, he can use me. Not that she's more jacked up than me, but like.
No, it's the truth. Yes. We present this to the world. And what I want people to see too is you're speaking my language. Like I'm getting like fired up over here. This is exactly what I love to hear women saying and talking about. And the thing is that when you and I and all of us, when we boldly say things that God has done in our life and how he has changed us, that gives so much hope to people who are looking to be changed.
Yes, because like you said before, Jesus isn't talking to the people who are saved.
Nope.
Jesus is talking to the messed up people who need him, the sick, like he says, and he's come for them. And I think like I have experienced very clearly in my life, God's just like great mercy and love for me when I didn't deserve it at all. Yeah. Not that I do today either.
No, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
And it's just incredible to see other women go before you and to just own that, for yourself.
So no doubt there's someone listening here who is exactly like we've been talking about. Yes. Maybe, and it may not be abortion. Let's kind of spread this blanket out a little bit further, but it could be abortion. There's someone listening that has never told anyone. Yes. What would you want to sit down across from her with a cup of coffee in your hand? What would you want to say to her?
I would honestly, when I talk to my friends about things like this, secrets keep people sick. Like I know we keep secrets because we want to hold them and we have this, desire that we can do it, but we can't. And I think scripture tells us over and over that we can do, and there's this phrase that goes around kind of God won't give you anything you can't handle, and
It's a
that
lie.
kind of thing. It's a lie, and it's not based in scripture. It says God, you can't handle anything except through him, except through Christ. And so I think that I would say just like there's so much freedom in telling, and like, yeah, there may be consequences, if you tell somebody, if there's an affair or something like that, where you've done something that there can be consequences, but God is bigger than any of the consequences that might come. And God loves you so much and wants the best for you, and promises in scripture that he has the best for you. Yeah. And so you can just cling to that truth. And it's so freeing.
I was going to say freedom. Freedom is what actually, like, it frees your soul. It really does.
Yes. I have had secrets, that I haven't told, and I've had to confess to my husband and my friends and things like that. And I've sinned against them in different ways. And it is so much better once they know. It is so much better, because then true healing and reconciliation can happen.
Yeah.
And if not, there's always that barrier between you. Even if the other person has no idea, even if it's something that happened 20 years before you even knew them, if you're holding that is a barrier between you and them, and between you and Christ.
Yeah.
There's just no reason. Just lay it down.
Let it out. And I always say too, like, to speak to the other people, the people who are going to have someone come to them with this, someone may come to you and confess something. I always am like, let's be women who are not shocked by other people's sin.
Yes.
Like, we cannot be women who someone comes to us and confesses or needs help or says, I've done this or this has happened. We cannot be shocked by sin, because we are all sinners.
Absolutely.
And so if we are shocked by people's sin, then who are we? It's like when Jesus is saying, if you're the first one to throw the first stone, go ahead. We drop our stones because we don't have the right to throw them. And so be women who, when someone comes to you, that you are not in a state of sin shock.
Absolutely. And just remember, like, how brave this woman is being to tell you, or this person is being, and how faithfully they're walking in Christ. And how can you be shocked and, mean to someone who is walking in what God has called them to do?
Girl, this will preach.
I love it.
Preach. Okay, so I love what you guys are doing, and I'm going to put all the links up to everything that y'all have going on in the show notes. So if anyone is like, I really, really, really want to know about this, or if they just want more information, I'll put that up.
Or if they want to partner monthly.
There you go. Look at you.
Save
You're doing
some
your
women.
job. Yep. Okay, so I have a question for you. I've been seeing a hashtag that you've been using, and I need you to tell me all about it. Are you ready?
Yes. What is it?
It's hashtag Jesus and Wine Club.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I need to know what this is.
Okay,
those are two of my favorite things.
Yeah, I mean, mine too. So we had, when I lived in California, I actually read Shauna Niequist's book, Bread and Wine.
One of my favorites.
Amazing.
Yes.
Oh, she was wonderful. And so I was just so inspired by what she was doing. I was like, I need to do this here. So I invited every single married woman in my church that was like in my age range that I knew. And I said, this is what I want to do. This is what her book talks about.
Okay, wait, stop. I'm sorry. In your new church or your old church?
In my old church in California.
Okay, carry on.
Sorry. And so I, basically said, I want to do, Acts 2 is like my favorite, and the church in Acts 2, and Acts 2, 46 and 47, basically it says that the people are doing life together so often and worshiping so often, and everything is so ingrained that you can't tell when it's communion and when it's dinner. And I just love that. And I think God wants that for us. He doesn't want us to be alone. He wants us to be able to enjoy life, and glorify him at the same time. And so, hello, Supper Club.
Hello.
And so we did that in California for about a year and a half. 8 women did it with me. It was so wonderful. And then when I moved to Colorado, I was like, no, I can't stop.
Yeah.
I need a new one. So there was one girl that I knew in town from Influence, that woman, Amber, I told you about. And I said, would you like to do this? And she was like, yeah. So we started a hashtag for Colorado Springs, which is where we are, to see if anyone was involved. A few people wanted to do it. And so a bunch of strangers met up at my house 2 months ago, and we all had our first Jesus and Wine Club.
Strangers, that's what makes this even better.
Oh, it's so great. And you know what? It's so cool that God has knit everything together, because this isn't a surprise to him that we moved here. This isn't a surprise to him in the season that anyone is in. And so for all the women to sit around my table, which is like my most favorite, and we were eating and talking, not all of us knew each other. Some people knew some people. And it was just so incredible how deep and how authentic when you're trying, and when you all come knowing, like, we're here to glorify God, to be real, to have fun, to eat good food, to drink good wine, and to worship the Lord together and spur each other on. Man, the things God did in my last Supper Club is amazing. And so I just can't wait to see what happens in this one.
Okay, so tell me, do y'all go through a book? who cooks. Because people are like, that's one of my favorite things is my supper club. And my friend Jen, who's in the supper club, she's this little small writer. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yeah. No big deal.
Well, no big deal. She talks about it in her book. And she told me that she gets so many comments when people ask about supper club. And so we love to share about our supper club. But tell me, how did you just told me how you started it, but what is y'all's format? What do you do? Do you go through a book? Tell me about it.
So what we do is somebody different hosts every month. We started at my house, and the person who hosts makes the main course, and then everybody else brings, because I didn't want people who can't cook to not be included. Like, I love to cook, but some people just want to go buy a loaf of bread or buy a bottle of wine, you know? So I still want them to be included in this. So you sign up, basically we send out an email beforehand, and the person says the main course, and then, you know, what we need: an appetizer, a dessert, bread, you know, a salad, etc. And so everybody signs up. So, everybody knows what they're bringing. And then we all come together that night and do it. And we do the if table questions.
Oh, great.
Because they're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good. So we just basically do those. Now, some of them are a little, like, I'm obviously, like, don't know Christianese, wasn't raised in the church. So some of them are a little, like, ethereal for me, where I'm like, it's like, what does the wind mean? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure Ian Voskamp wrote this question. But, like, and some people that totally speaks to. So it's really good every month that they're different and they're intentional. And sometimes the conversation will spur off, but sometimes I like to keep everyone, you know, on topic, because, you know, you don't want just, I think the hard time when we get in community with women, I know I do this sometimes, is we just kind of like, oh, this is my chance. You know, I'm home with my kids all day, or I'm at work, or I'm whatever. And I'm like, this is my time to unload, and people want to unload, but I want everyone to be able to talk. And so that's why I like to have the questions or something that can keep us kind of on topic and all on the same page.
I love it so much.
I know. I love it. It's my favorite.
People are going to start these, and I love that you're using the if questions.
I know. They're so good. I mean, why would I do the work when they already do it for me?
Those girls are doing good stuff over there.
They are. They are, too.
Okay, so not all these women go to your church, I take it, either.
None of them go to my church. We don't really have a church yet.
Okay, this is awesome.
This is pretty new. So
okay, people are going to be starting this.
Yes, everyone should. It's the thing is too, is like every time we post about it on social media, when we did it in California and when we do it here, everyone always comments. There's so many women underneath, like, I want to do this. How can I be a part? You know, that kind of thing. And that's really like kind of a point of contention where people feel like, okay, well, I want to be in this one club, but you can, I mean, 8 people is a lot of people to feed at one time.
Yes.
You know? And I just say, like, start your own. There are women everywhere who need it, and it is so easy. And I think it's scary to step out in faith. But obviously, I'm kind of like a leap off the cliff in faith kind of person.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, just do it. People will come. If you cook it, they will come. And
I think that's important that you said that, because this would appeal to so many people. Like, oh my gosh, I would give anything to sit around the table once a month with 8 women and talk. And it's so good that you just said that. Like, you can do that. Start it.
Yeah. Why not?
You can do it. It doesn't have to be at your house even, because that might be scary. Like, start it and find another girlfriend who loves hosting stuff, and then do it that way.
Do it at a coffee shop.
Do it at a coffee shop. Exactly.
Do a picnic date. There are so many options. And I think people, the heart is community of God for us. He wants us to have community and be in community. And I think you should.
Yes. Speaking of community, you're on Snapchat, aren't you?
That's one of my things I'm loving.
Can you? Oh, it is? Okay, well, let's jump into it, because I want you to explain it to me. So what are the 3 things you're loving?
Okay, Snapchat is number 1.
Tell me about it.
So I know how you feel about it.
I know, I just don't understand it.
And I didn't understand at first either. I thought it was like for inappropriate pictures for teenagers.
That's what you've heard. That's what I've heard. Like, don't let your kids be on Snapchat.
Don't. I agree.
They're sending naked pictures to each other.
I agree. And, you know, Snapchat keeps them, because my husband, for his job, would have to, like, subpoena Snapchat. So they are out there still. Like,
there is nothing. Here's the thing, though. Everything's out there.
Yes. Nothing on the internet doesn't last forever.
Right.
So, but what I really love about it is, one, so Instagram, I mean, I love Instagram, but I am not a very, like, clean, filtered, curated kind of person.
Okay.
That's just not my personality. And I try, but I'm not very good at it. So Snapchat gives me the ability to, like, actually have the real moments that are happening in my life. And it's okay for it to be kind of messy, you know? And so what I like to do is there are private messages, which they delete. But I don't really mess with that much. I just usually do the thing called My Story.
Okay, I've heard of that.
So you just basically take a video, there's 10-second videos or a picture or whatever. You can write on it if you want to, and then it saves to your story. And with my little kids, you know, we live in Colorado now. We went to Garden of the Gods. It's this beautiful area where there's rocks and hiking, and it's just so gorgeous. And I just record it, you know, little snaps of my 5-year-old, whatever she's doing, snaps of my kids, like snaps of us out there. And then at the end of the day, you can download your whole story onto your phone. So it saves as your video, and the whole 3 minutes of your day or whatever saves. So your family has these little memories. You know, our kids aren't going to have photo albums necessarily.
Right.
But my kids will have digital memories, and they'll have like, this is that day that we went and did this special thing. This is that day we did that, you know, that trip. So I love it. And my kids love it. They have these like silly filters for faces. And
oh, I've seen those. Yes, I see it everywhere. And I think, do I need to do this?
I mean, I would say yes.
You do? You say yes, I should do it?
Yes. Yes, because I mean, I just love it. And there are grown-ups on there. All my friends are all on there. So I think we're taking over.
You're taking over. Okay. Well, Instagram's my favorite. And so
Instagram is so good. That is the one thing as like an online internet-y, bloggy person, not having feedback is like a little difficult.
Because you don't get that in Snapchat.
No, you don't really get that. So that part is a little difficult, but I mean, it's kind of good for your soul too, right? To not check notifications of how many people liked your...
It's so good for your soul. Are you kidding? Oh my gosh.
So I'm kind of leaning towards Snapchat lately.
Okay. That's number one. I love it. What are your other 2 things you're loving?
I also love... Okay, so I love your podcast.
Oh, obviously. You're so sweet. Thanks.
It's so good and so encouraging. And I listen to it, you know, probably like everyone does when I'm cleaning, doing the dishes, that kind of thing. And there's a few other podcasts that I love, but I don't have time. I have 3 little kids. Yeah. So I love to listen to them on time and a half.
I do that too.
Okay, I'm sorry if somebody listened to this entire podcast on regular speed and they're not knowing, but next time. It's so good because I can just like burn through it real fast while I'm doing what I need to do, and it is so good. My husband gets a little weirded. He's like, it sounds like chipmunks are talking.
Aaron can't handle it.
Yes, he can't handle it.
Yes, he can handle it.
He's like, why are they talking so fast?
Yes.
But I like it. You know, you get used to it, and I really love it.
Okay, I do the same thing, but there are a handful of shows that like I can't because either it's like a serious show and I like feel like I might miss something, or I was listening to a Relevant podcast yesterday and they were interviewing someone and then they were playing music in between. And I couldn't do it because the music was really freaking me out because it just was like, I do feel like I'm listening to the Chipmunk album, you know, like it was too much. But I, like you, I do it and people need to know about it.
It's the way to get through content fast. There's so much good content out there and I don't have time to listen to all of it.
Girl, I love that. Okay. What's your third thing?
And then my third thing is, this is just silly. I guess all of these are kind of silly, but so dry shampoo, right? Like, amen. It's amazing. It's everything.
Yes.
But I have dark brown roots like in my hair now, and mostly dark brown hair. And so it gets that like white powdery like situation, and it's terrible. So I found recently this dry shampoo. It's Batiste brand, which is like the best brand supposedly. And it's called Hint of Color, dark and deep brown. And there's like color in the shampoo. So if you have gray, I guess this would also help.
Oh, yeah.
And it like covers up. And so when you like rub it in on the top, it like is brown powder. It's not white powder. So you can't tell. It's life-changing. Life-changing. So good. So good. And then that way I don't have to wash my hair every 3 days. So.
I just discovered dry shampoo probably about 2 years ago. And I love it.
I mean, because honestly, who showers every day? Do people have time and wash their hair every day? Not me. Not me.
Sometimes even like I will, like if I'm going to like shower later in the day, or like if I know like this is the worst, if I know like, okay, like Tuesday I have to go somewhere.
Yes.
So why would I shower on Monday? Like
exactly.
I'll shower on Tuesday.
Same. Yes. I do the same. Because why would you, honestly?
What's the big deal? Yeah.
No point. No point.
Oh my gosh.
Or if my husband travels a lot now with this job. He's actually like, right now he's in California. He's launching a bus today. Our 21st bus is hitting the road. So he's like gone for a few days. So I don't need to shave and shower this whole time. I mean, probably not the whole 3 days, but.
No, when Aaron's out of town, I look like a homeless person at home.
Yes, exactly. So
I don't know what that says about us, that we only like take care of ourselves when our husbands are home. I don't know if that's what that can't be good. But I think we're just a little bit more relaxed.
It's honestly, and we just go. We're super extroverted, both of us.
Yeah.
So we always have people over. We always have people around. And so when I get a chance to like hunker down and be like, nobody's bathing, everyone's in their pajamas all day.
Best.
It's so good. It's so that freedom, right? Walking in that freedom.
Hey, and if you homeschool, you never have to get dressed.
Yeah. I don't have to see people if I don't want to.
That's right. That's
I always want to, so.
Okay, what are you reading? Are you a reader?
I used to be a major reader, but I don't have a lot of time now to be reading all the things.
Yeah.
But I am currently reading Wild and Free by Jess Connolly and Haley Morgan.
Yes.
They sent me a copy, and it's amazing. I don't know if you read it.
I did read it. It's amazing.
It's so good because, I mean, and I know that they didn't write it for me,
but it seems like it.
Because I always feel like I am too much or not enough or somewhere in the between, always in my life, especially in being in ministry and not having grown up in the church. I can feel like, oh, I'm like the bad girl of ministry. And then when I'm like with the normal people, I'm like, oh, I'm like the good girl.
Right.
And so I like don't really have a place. And that book has just been so freeing for me. And I just adore them and what they're doing.
I adore them as well. And I read that book in one sitting on an airplane, and it was just like I couldn't stop.
It is such a breath of fresh air. Yeah. I just love it. And then also I do this Bible study this is a book of the Bible, but I do this Bible study fellowship.
BSF?
Yeah, BSF.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which I really is a little bit strict, but having not grown up, like knowing how to do quiet time,
yeah.
It's really good for me to be able to be like, these are the questions you answer today. These are the questions you answer tomorrow, and to stay on top.
Yeah.
And we did Revelations this year.
Yes.
And we just finished, and it was like so amazing because, I mean, who knows what Revelations means?
Yeah.
No. So it was really, really good to like just go through it and hear what different perspectives are. I mean, they didn't teach it in any way of like, this is the truth of what's happening, because how do you know? We're not going to know until Jesus comes where we are.
They really help you just study the Bible.
They just help you study the Bible and help you know God and love God more because of what he says is to come, you know? Mm-hmm. And it was super life-giving for me. So
I've heard great things about BSF. My mom when I was growing up, she did it for years and she's done all of them. Is that your first time you've been with them?
No, I did BSF last year also.
What'd y'all do? What'd y'all study?
We did the life of Moses.
Oh, okay.
So it was really, really interesting. It wasn't just one book, obviously, and it kind of skipped around. It was super good. And the next year we're doing John, which I love.
Oh, that'll be good.
So it'll be really, really good. And they're everywhere. So I highly encourage you to do it. So if you have time.
Do them here in Austin. Yeah.
So good. So good.
Then it is kind of strict, but I think it's like.
It is super strict. I mean, there was lots of times that I didn't answer the questions because I couldn't every day or like read the notes every day. But what I really love is that it keeps, they give you a lecture, you have the scripture, and then you have like notes on a paper that they pass out. And so everyone has the same information. So I don't feel like not as theologically wise as somebody else because we have the same words in front of us. And so I feel like I could learn more about who God is without being kind of like, oh, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, because everybody has it and it will reference back. And everybody kind of, the strictness is they try to keep you like on topic of like, oh, let's only speak out of these scriptures, which is a little bit annoying, except for that it makes you, everybody has it. And so everybody can actually talk about what they have in front of them.
That's great. I love Bible studies like that for people.
Me too.
So good. Okay. Before we go, I do have one more question for you.
Yes.
What are you thinking about Justin Bieber's new tattoo?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is embarrassing, but I do kind of like Justin Bieber lately.
Hey, no, nothing embarrassing about that.
I'm trying to get him a stork shirt.
See?
Put it on.
My husband has a recurring dream about him coming to our church and coming to know the Lord, which I think that might have already happened. So
yes,
that's
I think
out.
so too.
Yeah.
I have a good friend who knows the pastor who like, quote, converted him or helped him with that. And she said that it's real. And I think it's like so hard for him to go, I feel bad for Justin Bieber. I look at his life and I'm like, man, people want stuff from him all the time. And it's so sad. How could he even really be, a normal Christian person in this kind of role without like this dramatic thing he's going through right now? So I pray for him. Some people pray for the Kardashians. I pray for Justin Bieber.
Oh gosh. And he got that cross right close to his eye, right? To represent his faith, huh?
So that it's something that he sees everything through the lens of the gospel.
Oh my gosh, I need that.
I'm like, that's a little deep, Bieber.
That is.
It's not too late to say sorry.
No, it's not. It's not too late. We danced to some Justin Bieber around here. I'm not gonna lie.
It's true. My kids love it. I mean, they are only allowed to listen to like one or two of his songs.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have like Bieber shirts or we don't have the Bieber fever or anything.
No, of course not.
But
he needs to get a little bit closer to God before my kids can listen to him. But
there you go. So okay, I'm glad to talk to someone about the Bieber fever.
Yes, me too.
Justin Bieber.
It's my secret love.
I do think that has got to be one of the hardest situations to be in. Is this person who is so out in the open, and then your life changes.
Totally.
And you know what? When I came to know the Lord, when I started following Jesus, I didn't have an overnight change.
Mm-hmm.
And I had grown up in the church, but I still continued to fail and fail and fail. But it was like I felt different about those failures. And I was like needing Jesus more than I ever had. And I was acknowledging my sin. So I think that's also hard to do that in the public eye.
I always think about how glad I am that it was only barely Facebook when I was in college.
Oh, I
didn't have all that mess. Oh, it's so good. And it's even been, I look back at some of my so I just recently redid some things on my blog. And so I was going back through and I didn't have pictures for everything that I had before. And I look at some things that I wrote, 8 years ago, and I look at where I am today and I'm like, I don't think that, or I wouldn't see it that way. Or I need to rein that in.
Yeah.
and so I can't.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I just can't imagine doing that in front of millions and billions of people.
Exactly. And I think that we need to also not totally disregard whatever faith Justin Bieber is walking through, because if it is real, it might not look just like ours and it might not change overnight.
Totally. I mean, whose faith looks the same? Nobody's.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So. There's our little Justin Bieber rant.
Yep. Praying for you, Bieber.
There you go. There's another hashtag.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the happy hour.
Thanks so much for having me, Jamie.
It was
so
fun. Wonderful. And as usual, I'm going to put everything we chatted about up on my webpage so you can find the links to everything. So have a great day and have a great summer up in Colorado. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it.
Thanks. You too.
Y'all, did y'all not love Ashley? I nearly died when she told the story about her giving her life to Jesus during a Nick Lachey song. I love that so much. It was the best story I've heard in a long time. Also, all of our conversations about encouraging women to open up to one another are truly the heartbeat of what I want to see women happening. I loved when Ashley said, secrets keep people sick. I have been marinating on that since the day she said that. So I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. We'd love to hear from you. If you loved anything we said today, find Ashley online. You can go to my webpage, jamieivey.com. That's where all the show notes are, and that's where it tells you how you can find Ashley. I'd love to hear from you guys. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Today's show was edited by Knox McCoy, and the music is from Jason Poe. Guys, next week my guest is Jessica Robertson from the Duck Dynasty family. Of course, I'm going to have to admit to her, just like I did to her sister-in-law Corey in episode 71, that I have only seen this show a handful of times, but we have way more to talk about than just that. So enjoy your week, share the show with a girlfriend, have a happy hour, and I'll see you guys next week.